He returned the wallet, and the next day he lost everything.
A young cleaner, already struggling to feed his starving sister and save his dying mother, finds a wallet filled with money that could change his life in 1 second. But instead of taking it, he chooses to do the right thing. And that one decision, it destroys him. Fired, broken, left with nothing. But what if I told you that moment wasn't the end of his story? What if the truth was just waiting? Stay with me, because this story will test what you believe about honesty, sacrifice, and how life really works. And if you love powerful African stories that hit deep and stay with you, subscribe to Amos Tales Africa right now, because this one you will never forget. Benjamin was just 26 years old, yet life had already placed heavy weight on his shoulders that felt too big for someone his age to carry. And every single day he woke up not because he was full of energy or hope, but because he had no other choice except to keep going for the people who depended on him. He worked as a cleaner at Prime Steel Corporation, a big company where people wore clean suits, spoke big English, and earned salaries that Benjamin could only imagine. Yet he moved quietly through the same building every day with a mop and a bucket, cleaning floors that others walked on without even noticing his existence. And sometimes it felt like he was invisible, like he did not matter. But outside that company, his life was very different and much heavier. At home, his mother lay weak on an old bed, her body tired from sickness that had stayed too long without proper treatment, and each time she coughed, Benjamin felt a sharp pain in his heart because he knew that what she needed was money. Money he did not have, no matter how hard he worked. In the same small house, his younger sister sat quietly most of the time, her energy gone, her face dull, and her stomach empty, because she had not eaten for almost 2 days, and even though she tried to smile whenever Benjamin looked at her, he could see the truth in her eyes, and it broke him slowly from inside. That evening, as Benjamin returned from work, his steps were slow and heavy, not because he was tired from cleaning, but because he did not know how he was going to face them again, without bringing food, without bringing hope, without bringing any change. The silence in the house was louder than noise, and as he sat down, looking at his mother and sister, something inside him whispered a painful question that he tried so hard to ignore. How long can I keep living like this? And that night, as hunger, fear, and responsibility surrounded him like darkness, Benjamin did not know that the very next day, his life would be tested in a way he never expected. The next morning came slowly, and even though the sun had risen, Benjamin did not feel any light inside him, because the same problems were still waiting, and the same hunger still lived in his house. And as he stepped out to go to work, he looked back one more time at his mother, lying weak, and his sister, sitting quietly, and he made a silent promise in his heart that somehow, something had to change. When he arrived at Prime Steel Corporation, everything looked normal. Just like every other day, people walked past him without noticing, machines hummed in the background, and the world continued as if nothing was wrong. Yet inside Benjamin, there was a storm of thoughts that refused to calm down. After a long day of cleaning floors, emptying bins, and doing tasks that no one appreciated, it was finally time to go home. And like always, he entered the staff bus, where each worker had their own usual seat, a small routine that brought a little order into his difficult life. As he walked to his seat and sat down, something felt different, because right there on the seat was a wallet that did not belong to him. And for a moment, he just stared at it, unsure of what to do, as if his body had frozen between two choices. Slowly, he picked it up and looked around, but no one seemed to be searching for it. No one seemed worried, and the bus continued moving as if the wallet had been waiting only for him. With slightly shaking hands, he opened it, and what he saw made his heart beat faster than ever before, because inside the wallet was a large amount of money, more money than he had ever held in his hands at once, and along with it was a business card that clearly showed it belonged to someone important in the company. In that moment, Time felt like it had stopped. His mind quickly ran back to his house, to his sister who had not eaten for 2 days, to his mother who needed medicine, and for the first time in a long while, he saw a possible way out of his suffering, a way that looked so easy, so close, and so real. This money can change everything, a voice inside him whispered, and it sounded so convincing, so powerful, because it spoke directly to his pain. But then, another voice came, quieter, but stronger, reminding him of something deeper, something he had always believed in, something his mother had taught him when life was still kinder. This is not yours. Benjamin sat there, holding the wallet tightly, his thoughts pulling him in different directions, his heart beating between survival and honesty. And the closer the bus got to his stop, the heavier the decision became, because whatever he chose next would not only affect his life, but define the kind of person he truly was. The bus finally came to a stop, and as people stood up and began to step out one after the other, Benjamin remained seated for a few seconds longer, holding the wallet tightly in his hands, because even though the journey had ended, the real decision was only just beginning, and his heart was still not at peace. Slowly, he stood up and stepped out of the bus, and as his feet touched the ground, it felt like he had crossed into a moment that would shape everything about his life, because the weight in his hand was no longer just a wallet, but a test that refused to let him go. That night at home, nothing had changed physically. His mother was still weak, his sister was still hungry, and the house was still quiet. But inside Benjamin, there was a war that would not stop, because every time he looked at the wallet, he imagined food on the table, medicine in his mother's hands, and relief in his heart. Yet at the same time, he felt a deep discomfort that made it hard for him to even breathe properly. His sister looked at him with tired eyes and tried to smile, even though she was clearly struggling. And his mother gently asked if work had been fine. And in that moment, Benjamin felt something break inside him, because he realized that the people he was trying to help would never want him to become someone dishonest just to solve their problems. That night, sleep did not come easily, because his thoughts kept moving back and forth like a door that would not stay closed, and every time he tried to justify keeping the money, something inside him pushed back harder, reminding him that peace does not come from doing what is easy, but from doing what is right. By the time morning came, his decision had already been made. Benjamin woke up with tired eyes but a clear heart, and even though nothing around him had improved, there was a quiet strength inside him that had not been there before, because he had chosen who he wanted to be, not based on his situation, but based on his values. When he arrived at work that day, he walked differently, not faster, not slower, but with purpose, and as soon as he got the chance, he went straight to the office of the operations manager, the person whom he thought that had the company's business card and the owner of the wallet, yet it was for the boss himself. He knocked gently, stepped in, and with both hands, he handed over the wallet exactly as he had found it, without removing anything, without hiding anything, and without expecting anything in return, except the feeling that he had done the right thing. The operations manager took the wallet and looked at Benjamin for a moment, his face difficult to read, and then he simply nodded, saying very little, which felt strange, but Benjamin did not question it, because in his heart he believed that truth did not need applause to be right. As Benjamin walked out of the office, he felt lighter, even though his problems were still there, because for the first time in a long while, he had chosen honesty over desperation. But what he did not know was that this simple act of doing the right thing had just placed him in the middle of something much bigger, something unfair, and something that was about to turn his life upside down in a way he never expected. The next morning began like any other, but there was something in the air that Benjamin could not explain, a quiet tension that made everything feel slightly different, even though nothing had visibly changed. And as he moved through his usual cleaning duties, he noticed that a few workers looked at him in a strange way, whispering softly as he passed, which slowly planted confusion in his heart. Not long after, a message came that the boss wanted to see him, And as Benjamin wiped his hands and made his way toward the office, his mind began to race with questions because he had done nothing wrong, yet something inside him felt uneasy, like a storm was quietly waiting. When he entered the office, the boss sat behind a large desk with a serious expression, and the operations manager stood nearby, calm and confident, as if nothing unusual had happened. And for a moment, Benjamin felt small in that room, surrounded by power he could not challenge. The boss looked directly at him and asked a simple question, but the weight of it was heavy. "Did you return the wallet?" Benjamin nodded respectfully and explained clearly that he had found it on the bus and returned it with everything inside, his voice steady because he knew the truth was on his side and he believed that truth would protect him. But then something unexpected happened. The boss's face hardened and he leaned forward slightly as he spoke again, this time with disappointment in his voice. "The money inside the wallet is missing." For a second, Benjamin did not understand what he had just heard because the words felt too far from reality, and he quickly shook his head, trying to explain that he had not taken anything, that he had returned it exactly as he found it. But before he could even finish speaking, the operations manager stepped in calmly and said that when the wallet was handed over, the money was already gone. The room became heavy with silence. Benjamin's heart began to beat faster, not from guilt, but from shock, because he realized that his truth was standing alone against a lie that sounded more powerful. And no matter how much he tried to speak, his words felt smaller with every second. "I did not take anything," he repeated, his voice now filled with emotion. But the boss had already made up his mind, because from where he stood, the situation looked simple. The wallet had been returned without money, and the only person connected to it was Benjamin. Without giving him more time to defend himself, the boss made a decision that fell like a heavy stone. "You are fired." The words echoed in Benjamin's ears, and for a moment everything around him felt distant, like the world had stepped away from him, and all he could feel was the pain of being judged for something he did not do, especially after choosing to do what was right. He tried one last time to explain, his voice almost breaking as he spoke about his honesty, about returning the wallet, about not touching the money. But the boss raised his hand slightly, signaling that the decision had already been made and nothing he said would change it. Slowly, Benjamin turned and walked out of the office, his steps no longer steady, his heart heavy with confusion, pain and disbelief, because the very thing he thought would bring light into his life had instead pushed him deeper into darkness. As he stepped out of the company building, the same place he had worked so hard in, he now carried nothing but the weight of injustice, and one painful question kept repeating in his mind. What was the point of being honest, if this is what it brings? But far away from his thoughts, in a quiet security room filled with screens, something was about to be seen. Something that would begin to change everything. And sometimes the most painful part of doing the right thing is not the struggle before it, but the silence that comes after, when nothing seems to reward your honesty and everything feels like it is falling apart. And in that moment, many people would choose never to be honest again. Because right now, Benjamin has lost his job, his hope is fading, and the people waiting for him at home still need him more than ever. Yet, the truth he is holding on to feels weak against a lie that has already been believed. And the question slowly grows heavier. If doing the right thing leads to this kind of pain, would you still choose it? Or would you take the easier path next time? And never look back, because what Benjamin does not know yet is not over. But for now, it feels like it is. If this part made you feel something deep, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video, share it with someone, and subscribe to Amos Tales Africa. Because part 2 might just change everything you think you know about honesty.